Welcome to First and Goal, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Get ready for the latest and hottest topics in the SML. Let's get started. Here's your host, Mad Bomber.
Welcome to this week's episode of First and Goal. This week we've got prime time 00017 time SML champ. Not really sure what he's doing there. We've got Rowin. He's making his appearance here on First and Goal. We've got Matt, his second time on the show, and then Field. How's everybody doing this afternoon in a unusual afternoon filming?
Great.
Well, it's 9 a.m. here, so I'm feeling good.
Oh, imagine getting up at 9 a.m. for First and Goal. All right, so we're gonna start with topic one. Topic one, like we said, there's probably three seasons left in the SML cycle this year. How do you see that changing the value of draft picks and the value of the older vets? And we'll start with you, Prime.
Yeah, I think that this is our last really important draft that people have. I mentioned it actually in Total Access. For example, Dump got Edens, I think, and then within a season he was 90 overall. That's a unique circumstance. That doesn't happen a lot, but this is the last draft where you can get a guy, develop him in 2 seasons, and possibly win a Simbardi because of that guy, if he's a difference maker. Obviously, now guys are going to start pouring a little more money into free agency, into those aging vets. But this is the last draft where you can get somebody and then make a long-term difference, because 3 seasons in the SML is still 4 months in real life, so we still got a long way to go.
All right, Rowan, what do you think?
I want some respect on my name.
Put some respect on his name. Damn it.
All right,
it's
sounds like it's
24-hour
working
advance.
now.
Oh, here we go.
He's working loud and clear.
All right. Go ahead,
You want
Rowan.
to
What do you
listen
think?
now, Bomber? All right. Yeah, so I think this is the last draft. Maybe the next draft you can get a few guys if you pick it in the top 10. But we got three seasons left. I'd say it takes for a good player, it takes a season and a half to develop some of these guys. Some of these lower end players probably aren't going to develop them as well. I do think as the cycle comes down to an end, the players right now that are sitting around like 30, 31 years old, they're a little more enticing because, yeah, they're going to start regressing. But if they have good development, you can limit that regression. So you're going to have players like Stephon Diggs, who was 31. DeMarcus Lawrence is on my team. He's 33. Guys like that, they can hang around and compete at the end of this cycle. So if you mix them in with maybe this draft, maybe next draft, you should be able to make a good late push to maybe get a Simbardi at the end of the cycle.
All right, Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I think this is the last year probably that you'll see people really pushing to get picks and paying a premium price for them. As far as aging vets, I think free agency is a good indicator of that people are willing to hold on to their aging vets a little more. I mean, it's really basically just old wide receivers that are a little bit slower. For the most part, that's really all I saw. Guys I've talked to, they're wanting a little bit higher price on their aging vets, whereas, a couple seasons ago when I got here, prices were a lot lower on those older guys. So I think the older guys are catching a little bit more premium. They're a little bit more higher price than they used to be. And then draft picks after this year, good luck getting rid of them, unless you're in that top maybe 1 to 10 range.
Yeah. All right, Field, what about you?
Bomber. I fundamentally disagree. Everything that my constituents just talked about is preposterous, unbelievable. But no, I kind of disagree in the fact that they think that you can develop a guy in 3 seasons. These draft classes have been lackluster. It's kind of like me in bed. They just don't do much for you unless, like Prime said, you hit gold like Dump did with Edens. I don't think there's too much development you could do in 3 seasons. Too little, too late. And it's not like back probably 2 Maddens ago, you could put your points on a certain guy, pick which skill point you wanted to level up, and you could develop that. Yeah, Prime and I know about turning them corners into something nice, but you could really develop guys pretty quickly. Now, I mean, for the most part, unless you're spamming that certain player hitting those XP goals like Dirty Dan, you're not going to do it. It's for the typical players such as myself. It doesn't matter if you pick 5th or 25th. You're probably not going to get a guy that's going to make or break your team because the user input, in my opinion, is going to do it for you. And then the vets, Obviously, guys like Prime are going to go all out in free agency. They're going to start spending more and more money because if they got it, which if it's, I won't talk, I'll wait till the next point, but there are guys that potentially have some money to spend. I think they're going to go all out.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think the last draft was the last one, or maybe even the one before that. Offensive guys seem to be real easy to dev up quick, but on defense, they seem to take a while.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends what you're looking for. But topic number two. Topic two, talking about funds issues. So Figs just got fired because he couldn't manage his funds. And how many others do you think are going to get fired before the cycle is over? And what do you do to manage your funds? All right. So, Rowin, we'll start with you. How do you manage your funds, and how many people do you think are going to get fired this cycle?
Personally, I don't do a thing to manage my funds. I haven't checked prices once. I haven't set hot dogs. I haven't built no new stadiums. And I haven't been fired. I'm looking at it right now. I got 539 M's in the bank. So I mean, we doing good in New York. So I ain't really worried about checking funds. I don't think I'm gonna get fired because I'm not trading away every valuable piece of my team and making fans not want to show up. I mean, I might not win the most, but at least we put on a fun performance. And how many more are going to get fired? I could see a few getting fired, like Raider. I could see him getting fired because sometimes I think he has no idea what's going on. I wouldn't be surprised to see Figs get fired again, honestly. Just because Figs doesn't know what's going on either. And then there's a few other those low hanging fruit that I could see them getting chopped right off. But we ain't getting fired in New York, and we don't touch our funds, so we doing something right.
Did you say you have over 500 million in your funds?
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, 539 M's.
All right, Matt, we'll go with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't understand owner mode at all, not even in the slightest. Never done it before, so I try to stay away from it. I don't want to break anything. So unless the game prompts me to sign a trainer or something, I don't touch it. So I'm with Rowin. Not a clue. I just let my play and my good looks bring people to the stands. So I think Latin and Raider definitely getting fired. I'm surprised Latin hasn't. He's not winning. He's not signing big names. I can't even name a player on his team. I think he had Aaron Rodgers a couple seasons ago, but I can't even name a player on his team. So I wouldn't show up to those games. But here in New England, we have like 286 million. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if it's bad. I honestly don't even know what it's good for.
All right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I'm sitting at 61 million. So, Field, how about you? What's next? What do you think?
Well, it's kind of hard to predict who. I mean, just because a guy from a gameplay standpoint doesn't necessarily mean that from a general management standpoint that he's garbage. So I'm not going to be able to really speculate on it because I haven't done enough research to look at people's cap and funds and stuff like that. But for me personally, I'm sitting at about 78 M's, as Rowin would say. I don't have a bag or a bank, but occasionally I do look at prices. I don't feel like it's as critical as it was a few cycles ago where you basically had to check on it every week because things would defer based on your attendance and they would constantly be bitching about, like Rowin talked about, the hot dogs and that. So we check our prices out every once in a while to get on there to make sure that overall we're bringing in as many funds as we can. But you're kind of at that point where it doesn't matter. Dookie went ahead and bought another damn stadium, and we're just kind of rolling out with it the best we can. But yeah, if you were going to make a prediction as to who was probably going to be the next to fall, I would probably have to agree with those guys and say that Latin and Raider. And then probably Figs. He's been fired once. I think there's a good chance that he get fired 2 or 3 more times before this cycle's over.
All right. Prime, how about you?
Yeah, this happens once, twice per cycle, like clockwork. Somebody gets a warning one season. They don't tell me. It warns you the season before. They're like, hey, if you're in the negative funds, you're going to get fired next season. So Figs got this notification. He's I don't know. I'm just not going to worry about it. And then he just went on, played, lost 15 games, and then here we are. But obviously, Raider. Latin Yank doesn't spend any money at all. He's in a New York market. He's got over 100 million in cap space. He doesn't go into free agency. So he's probably got the most funds out of everybody. I mean, that guy doesn't touch his team. So he's probably got maybe $1 billion. So I don't know. I kind of like owner mode a little bit. It's going to become something, a little prediction of mine heading into this off season. It's going to be like one of those trendy terms where guys are going to push for us to switch to coach mode. And we'll see. I know they've added some stuff to coach mode recently within the past cycle or two to make it a little bit better. But we'll see. I like the ability to where funds do make a difference in the bonus money, and you can't just shell out millions of bonus dollars. And that's kind of why I like owner mode.
I do have one quick thing to add because Prime just mentioned about guys that don't spend a lot of money, so they should have it. But if Daddy Leagues is accurate, and we all know that it's not, it says that Figs has 113 million in free salary cap this season, and he also just busted his load in terms of having zero.
Yeah, I'm assuming what he did. He probably rebuilt his stadium and probably bought a new hot dog stand, and then he went out and probably paid somebody for a 1-year contract with like a $25 million bonus, knowing Figs, and he probably cut that player the next week.
So that kind of you brought something up in your answer, Prime, and kind of looking at who's got the most money. Rowin sitting over there at 500 million.
The whole bank.
Yeah, the only thing I see with owner mode is teams in the big market are going to have a big advantage.
Yeah.
So it depends if you want that to matter or not. So that's probably why me and Field sitting under 100 million, and we're not in that New York market or that Boston market.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I'm in the Indianapolis market. I'm not a big market team either.
Yeah, so I'm curious how that gives them a leg up, or if it even does. But topic three, we've got free agency tonight. The first advance where guys are going to get signed legally. What are your thoughts on the sniping that's about to happen? Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't like sniping. I made it pretty clear that I think there could be some free agency rules put in place to circumvent it. I don't have a problem with it because the rules don't prevent it, and it's the way that we advance it to free agency. It actually encourages it. And since it would be nice if Madden could give us, Prime could set a random 3-hour advance window and the game would just automatically do it. But since it won't, and at the risk of getting clicked on here, when I was in a league with Mike and Coop, I believe they did random advances. So we're going to advance between 5 and 8 Eastern. That was really nice because then that got rid of the sniping, because if you were trying to snipe, you had to pick when you wanted to do it. That was also nice for guys that can't be there tonight to counter those snipes. Some people may have put their bids in and they won't be able to load up Madden for the rest of the day. So I think a random advance would be awesome. That puts a lot of pressure on Prime because he will obviously be the one that knows when we're going to advance. But in my opinion, if you can't trust Prime, you probably shouldn't be in this league.
All right, Field, how about you? You've been here a while.
Yeah, and we talked about this before on other shows, and free agency is always going to be the biggest bitch that people have, and it's honestly the love child that's just going to be hard to rein in, because you're always going to have somebody that's going to be butthurt about whatever way you approach it. If you go with the random advances, like he said, there's going to be the people that are going to accuse Prime of going in there, bumping up bids before he advances, which he already does anyway. And I don't know, there's just not a good way of doing it. You could say that we advance at 10 o'clock and then all bids have to wait till 10:05, but then there's going to be people that are still bidding after 10 o'clock. I mean, for me, like the biggest rule I would like to put in, if you put a bid in, for one, like you need to make it within, like it needs to be in within a reasonable amount of time before advance, but also if you put a bid in, you can't take it off the player. Like you can't just bid shit up and then take your bids off right before advance. That's pretty petty. A couple guys did that to me last offseason. So that would be like my personal one, is just not being able to remove a bid once you put it in. The only other solution that I've thought of in the past is where a guy DMs, and the only caveat in this one is going to be if Prime wants that player, it could cause an issue. But you DM Prime your bid for a player, but it's going to get, or it had to be like a committee because there's so many players, or you set like an overall threshold where they set a bid for the player and then Prime awards that player to that person because they had the highest bid.
I like that. That adds a lot of work for Prime, so that sounds like a good idea. Prime, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the issue is there's really no good plan. I know Matt mentioned the random advance time. No matter what, the finger is going to be pointed. I've had people this cycle blame me for last second sniping, then advancing, when I haven't personally pushed the advance button once this cycle to avoid that. as for Fields' idea, it does add a lot of work. And then I've been accused of sniping on fullbacks by Mike FML, a 76 overall fullback he got upset about. So people are going to be upset no matter what. I think the only issue is, first of all, I think that teams and players do share those numbers anyway. So the aspect of sniping right before the deal gets done might not be that realistic, but teams are sharing these numbers. So in that aspect, I think it is somewhat realistic. And I think the fix would have to be in the game where we could either not see, or they just don't show. Maybe they show the teams bidding and they don't show the numbers, or they allow us to set that random advance time within a 12-hour window. That way you don't have guys sitting in front of your TV for 12 hours. A 12-hour window, the game does it itself. We set the advanced schedule for 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock or random in that time, and it'll do it for us. I think it's a game problem because there's not going to be a perfect plan. Someone's always going to be butthurt. We see it with trade rules. This is a good segue, by the way. We see it with trade rules. We see it with free agent rules. We see it with fourth down rules. Someone's always got a great idea. It's politics, and I hate it. So I'm not doing anything about it.
All right, Rowan, what do you think?
Yes, yeah, I share a few different views on sniping here. Now, doing it, someone's going to do it to me, so I don't feel bad doing it to anybody else. You gotta, if you're going to hate something, you got to hate the game, not the player. So I'm not going to sit back and cry about getting sniped because you have the same ability to do it to other people, and you're a grown man. So if you're going to cry about getting sniped when you have the same option to do it to someone else, that's on you. Like, you can't be upset about that. And as a way to maybe fix sniping, it'd be crazy if someone came to Prime and offered a good plan to fix it. They did. That's right. Someone did come to Prime and offered a plan to do what Field said, and they offered to host the whole anonymous bidding through an email. And it'd be cool if we could do that. And someone offered to do all the work, take it completely off Prime's plate. But yeah, it's we're not going that direction for some reason. Who knows why?
That's way too much work and way too much room for error. If that person's off, if that person's not available that day, if an email's missed, if somebody's friends with somebody, there's way too much possibility for something to go wrong. The only possible rule I would consider would be, and we can't even do it anymore, is set a limit for the points allowed to bid. And I think Grams has brought this up. It has that green bar, and typically it says 125 points or something like that. And let's say nobody's allowed to go over a 125 point bid. And so everybody's going to be at 125, and then the player chooses where he wants to go. That's the only one I would realistically consider. But now you can't see what the other teams put for the point thing. So you have to go in a trust system, and we can't do that.
Yeah, and even that, if you're not watching when the snipe happens, they could be over it, and nobody's going to even know.
Yep.
And one thing I'll add is it would be nice if, a lot of the sniping that I've seen on some of my players are 1-year deals because there's really no penalty. You can pay a guy $1 million or 1 year for $50 million, and you're just going to get that back the next time. So it'd be nice if perhaps if the free agent is not asking for $1 million or 1-year deals, or they're not over a certain age or whatever, that you cannot offer them a 1-year deal. You're not going to snipe 3 years, 120 million. You're not going to do that because that's going to handicap you for the next 2-3 seasons.
Oh, I did it. Michael Thomas, baby.
Yeah, that's something where I can get with is the type of snipe you do, right? We had the Jadeveon Clowney thing. We had something where Dookie sniped Faz, where it's not a realistic offer. The player's going to take the long-term deal, but the game decides the 1-year deal is better. That's something I'm for, but not necessarily some of these crazy, way too much work ideas.
All right. So since we're on the topic of rules, like you said, it's a good segue to topic 4. We've heard this asked on the SML sit down, pretty much every guest that's been on there. And I thought it was a pretty good question. So I'll ask it here where we have more people. If you could change one rule, what rule would it be and how would you change it? And Field, we'll start with you.
The obvious ones are always going to be the trade rule and fourth down rule. I think we kind of had, if you wanted to change the trade rule, you could do it where you make it's already kind of in place where a guy has to play 2 full seasons. So make it 3 full seasons or whatever, and then just open the trades. I mean, I'd say the majority, it's probably 80% or better. The guys that are in the SML right now have been in for 2 cycles plus. So, I mean, the longevity is there. Kind of let them have a little bit more fun. When the league first started, I was completely opposed to trades and people blowing up stuff. But now that we've become more established and just in real life, where I saw DeAndre Hopkins get traded and just these trades that I thought would never happen kind of happen all the time in today's NFL. So I think if you put it at like a 3-season or 5-season, where basically they have to be in for the majority of the cycle before they can make whatever trades they want. But just kind of open up the trades. And then 4th down, I wouldn't mind seeing the 4th and 1 be backed up, where you could do it pretty much from like year 30 and on, just because we've seen the Patriots do it. We've seen a lot of these other guys do it. And your possessions are a lot more limited in a Madden, or at least in this Madden game, because we play 6-minute quarters opposed to 15-minute, where you're going to have the ball a lot more often. Your possessions are down, especially if you're playing a guy like Dump and these guys that really are good at running the football. So I wouldn't mind seeing the 4th and 1 be backed up a little bit, but that's just me.
Okay. Prime, obviously you could change the rules if you wanted, so this might not be a great question for you, but maybe one that you've thought about, but you just don't think maybe the league would accept it or it would go over well.
Yeah, I thought about the trade rules. That's probably the most common one. And actually, as I thought about this before the show, I thought about somebody bringing up the DeAndre Hopkins thing. And the issue with that is referencing that is Bill O'Brien did that, and Bill O'Brien doesn't have a job anymore because he did that. And I think that if I could change something, there's a few things I would change. 4th down rule is one of them. I think the NFL is a little more aggressive now, so maybe those could be tweaked a little bit. I like the idea of, if I could change in-game rules, I would change overtime to where overtime lasts a little bit longer in Madden. They've shortened up in regular season games, they shortened it up to like 3 minutes long, and somebody like Dump or Future, who runs the ball really well, they can just hold it all the way down to 15 seconds and either tie it, end in a tie, or kick a field goal and win it. So that's pretty unfortunate. But the one thing I would like to actually enforce is something where if guys have a complaint, they have to actually, there'd be a system where they do it. They have to have a Twitch clip of it. They have to explain exactly what this guy's doing wrong and why they did it and what rule they're breaking. Because right now you have guys who don't like each other. They'll DM me and they'll just say, "Oh, this guy's cheese," and then they won't say what it is. So I'll watch through a 45-minute game and I'll see maybe one minor infraction. So I think maybe a more specific outline of how to report game infractions is what I would go for, which is not the fun answer, but I think would be efficient.
Okay. And Rowin, so obviously now it's your question. What rule would you change, and how would you change it?
Yeah, there's a few I'm gonna touch on here. Obviously, the trade rules is the easy answer. For example, I was in trade talks last night. Someone was interested in a cornerback of mine, 29-year-old, 87, last year of his deal. He's a superstar, so I can't trade him. I don't think we need to open the trade rules full bore and make it crazy, but I think a little more like in that situation, like the last year of the deal, 29 years old, but I just can't trade him because he's a superstar. That makes it tough there. I think we have a good group, and we're not going to lose people if trades get a little looser, and it's gonna add for more team changes. Aside from that, I agree with Field on the 4th down. The games are short. You don't have a ton of time. The NFL is being more aggressive, like Prime said. So having that 4th and 1 extended, and then also say it's in the 3rd and late in the 3rd and you're down 14 and you got to settle and kick a field goal. I think there's just a few but judgment's always hard to take into perception because everyone's judgment's going to be different. And the last rule that I would look at, which might be specific to this Madden only, is Mike's not going to like it, but the sub locker speed being capped at 88. Yes, last Madden I understand because the user was insane. You could cover literally the whole field with anybody. This year, it's a little harder to get around the field, and you have a lot of linebackers that have 90-plus speed, especially in this year's draft classes. So, yeah, the animations are a little better, but I think if you open that sub linebacker just because the user isn't as OP, and you have players like Javin White, Devin Bush, Devin White. I mean, you have these 95 speed linebackers running around, which is no different than a 89 or 90 speed safety, in my opinion.
Let me comment on that.
Yep.
You can actually play a 90 speed linebacker. You just can't play a 90 speed safety there or an 89 speed safety because the safety,
Yeah.
the safety. So you could put a 95 speed linebacker there, but the issue of having a 90 speed safety there is the safeties will create an animation that a linebacker won't, which is why we cap the speed for that position for safeties only.
All right. So, Matt, you're up for this topic. What rule and how would you
Yeah.
change it?
So, the trade rules. I think that's a given. For me, I'm biased. When I took this team over, it's just not a team built for me. I don't need a quarterback. I don't need Michael Gallup. I don't need all these receivers. So if I could have traded Drew Lock, I would have loved it. I would have loved if when I came into the league, I think I could have traded Drew Lock. But since my seasons in primer didn't count, I had to spend 2.5 seasons here before I could do anything. And then Lock was a stud because he beat Prime in the playoffs. So I think for me, Rowin gave me a nice segue. I would get rid of allowing a defensive back in the sub linebacker. Get rid of it. It makes no sense. I don't know if it was added in this Madden because the user is tougher, but you should only have linebackers in those spots. It should only be you should not have a safety next to the line like that. I don't like that. And then I think my next rule would be you must rush 4 unless it's 3rd and long or an end of the game situation. There's a lot of guys that aren't breaking the rules. They're rushing 3, and the game doesn't really penalize you for rushing 3. A lot of guys can stop the run in the 3-3-5, just rushing 3, or in quarters they can stop the run just rushing 3. But if that person is passing, well, they can stop that too. So those would be my 2 rule changes. Trades seem fine to me. I would get rid of the sub linebacker. You can only have linebackers there, and you have to rush 4 at least, unless it's 3rd and long or end of the game situation like a Hail Mary.
All right. Unless anybody else has anything to add to that, that's going to do it for this week's show. I have once again lost Rowin, but that doesn't really matter because it's Field with 44, Rowin with 46, Matt with 48, and Prime with 45. So, Matt, you're a winner this week. These 30 seconds are all yours.
Yeah, so it's kind of been a slow week in the SML. I can't really remember much happening lately, the last week or so. So I'm going to take this time. It's Masters weekend, and we're missing our boy Tiger. So pretty devastating for me. I hope the GOAT's getting well. And speaking of GOATs, Prime, congratulations, number 17. You beat my boy RD. I think if the teams were switched, he'd have smoked you by 100.
Not a chance.
Congratulations,
Not a chance,
buddy.
RD drags and corners will never beat me in a Super Bowl, just so you know.
All right. Well, that's been this week's episode of First and Goal. Still got 3 of them on the screen, but I appreciate you guys being on. I know it was a Saturday afternoon, and we're all waiting for the advance. So till next week.
24-hour advance sucks.
Till next week, it's been First and Goal.
Thanks for listening to First and Goal. Be sure to check out Mad Bomber TV on Twitch and YouTube for the latest from the SML. And we'll see you next time on First and Goal.